Hi, I'm Paul Brodie, back in the shop again. Mitch behind the camera. Thank you, Mitch. What's new? I've been working on Tiger Cubs, and I'm taking apart this motor. Right now I'm stalled out on the clutch hub. I have to make a special tool. And I have 4 engines or blocks, and I've been looking at them, and I think I can use this set here. This one here. See all, I don't know if you can see that. There is welding here, and there's JB weld over here, because I guess it was leaking when all the distortion happened from the welding. And I've got another crankcase over there, and it's got masses of weld on the bottom too. So I'm going to be very happy if I can make 1 motor out of 4. And I used to own a Cub when I was 15. If you don't know the backstory, that was basically 50 years ago, and I had it for 10 months. Sold it, made a profit of 50 bucks at that time, and never forgot about the Tiger Cub. So here I am in my more advanced years, back into the Cubs. I took these parts here out of this motor, and these are going to go into this motor. This has the points on the side. This is the more desirable for me anyway, having the points. Some of them have a distributor that goes here. I like the points. What we're doing today is, it's called 3 things. I got a set of rollers that I got off a friend. It's a set of starting rollers. We're going to hook them up. I haven't tested them or anything. I charged up an old battery. We're going to see if they work, and if they do work, we're going to go outside. We're going to use the 350 Aermacchi over there. We're going to put it on the rollers and fire it up. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Oh, I see that like that. Okay. Whoa! Holy! It's on a concrete floor, but it sounds a bit violent, doesn't it? Okay, we'll take it outside and start a motorcycle. Wow. Needs a little bit of tuning. I'll get to that. What we're working on now is a mock-up of the fuel tank. The fuel tank is going to go right in here. It's going to hang down on one side. We've got a rubber mount here. You notice that I took off the steering damper that was mounted here, because I realized that goes right where the tank is. So that's going to have to get mounted on the other side, which is fine. How the tank mounts is going to be foam, and the tank is going to sit on top of the foam. So I'll just hold that in place with a bit of masking tape. And then I'll cut out some cardboard, and I'm not going to finish this at all. This takes a while. But I want to show you the process of how we mock up a tank in cardboard. It's going to fit over that, and that's going to be the shock absorption, so that the tank doesn't rest on the frame directly. This is the inside of the fiberglass shell, and I cut out a piece of cardboard, and this goes right about here. And you can see that it's close to the shape. It's not perfect, but there's going to be a little bit of space, because what also happens is, after the tank is here, there's going to be an extra piece of foam that goes in between the shell and the actual tank, and that's what holds the tank down as well. So there's also the rubber mount here. I'm going to put on the tank shell here, And then I'm going to mark where the bottom of the tank is, because this comes basically level with the sides, like that. And then I'll know how much to cut out. It's just it's a process of cutting card, holding it together with masking tape, and then you end up with a shape. And then you have to figure out how much it holds. I need to hold 1.5 gallons. We're going to say that's US gallons. That's about 5 liters. And that goes onto the saddles right there. So this is the bottom, and it goes, basically, it goes to the top of the nut. That's where it goes, to the top of the nut. So that's what I have to cut out of the inside. So that's about a 3-inch tube. So if I was to find a piece of metal or get a compass, maybe a compass might work. Little space for the nut there. That's more or less what that looks like right there. So that's about the height of the front, more or less. Okay, we got more foam. What's going to happen is I got a fuel tap here, and the tank is going to look like it's going to end about here, but this side hangs down. This side hangs down to about there, and that's where the fuel tap goes. So it's going to be under the tank, easy access, and then that's where the fuel line goes from here to here. So it's a little bit underneath. That's the float bowl, obviously. So the float bowl is a little bit under the petcock. That's where it's going to sit. So it needs to be low. So I'm going to start this right about there. Okay, so I actually made it on the other side, but I think you get the idea of what's going on. So that's not going to come down all that far. That's going to come down to about here, and it's this side here that comes down farther. So anyway, you get the idea now. So we're going to move on now, because I could spend a lot of time on this, but I don't want to. What we're going to do now is to work on the breather. You see here how the tube goes into the crankcase, and there's no fitting there. Here's a crankcase breather that goes into the Aermacchi crankcase, and I used to make these and sell these, but what happens is when you put on the tube, and this tube is quite large as well, it comes up and it hits the frame, and so I was never ever happy with that. And on my last race bike, it was convoluted. It came up, it had an angle, and then it bent back over like that. So that's one of the reasons I'm spending a lot of time. I know it's overkill, it's just a breather, but I want to make this as nice as possible. So what I have here is a Bunn breather. So you've probably never heard of a gentleman who was born in New Zealand. His name is Rex Bunn, B-U-N-N. And he came up with this idea back in, I guess, 2013. He used to sell kits. And I went to British Cycle Supply online, and they still show the kits, but they say that these haven't been offered since 2014. And I did some emails with Rex Bunn, interesting gentleman, and I was online last night and I found a page about Rex Bunn. And he is a polymath author, a producer, and inventor, and he holds patents. So a polymath. I didn't know what a polymath was, and so I Googled it, and it's someone that has a wide range of knowledge, a huge range of knowledge on a variety of subjects. So he's obviously a highly educated person, and so we did some emails back and forth. This was back in 2013, and he told me that he now has a book out. This is in 2013, and he offered to send me one. It's all about a crankcase breathing, because he is probably the world's foremost expert on crankcase breathing. And the book is 698 pages. And when I found that out, I said, Rex, very nice of you to offer me a book, but to be honest, I don't think I'd get through it. It's just way too long about crankcase breathing. So anyway, what he made is a little valve here. And he was telling me that it's made out of the right kind of plastic. I don't know what it is. And so it's basically a one-way valve, but it's not affected by oil. So I can blow one way and it blows through easy. And the other way it's blocked because there's a little valve right inside there. So this goes on either on the crankcase, or it can go on the top of cylinder heads. Each engine has its own application. So what we're going to do is we're going to fit this into this piece here. This is the drawing I made up. And you can see that what I did a few days ago, I machined a thread that's the same thread as what goes into the crankcase. And how do I know it's the same thread that goes into the crankcase? Well, years ago when I was making these, I had an old crankcase, so I cut out the top section. This is that section right there, and then every thread that I made, I matched to this so that I would know it would fit. That seemed to be the sensible thing to do. So we're going to cut a hex on this next, and then we're going to make up a fixture that goes into the lathe at 13 degrees, because that's the right angle for it to come out. And then there's going to be a taper which is turned on the lathe, and then I made this little piece yesterday, and this is going to go on top of here. That fits in there very nicely, and there's a 3mm Allen screw, stainless steel Allen screw. That's what holds it into position. So yes, it's overkill, but it's my bike, it's my project that I'm sharing with you, so we're going to do this. First step is go to the mill and cut a hex like that. I've got the rotary table set up. We've got 6 hexes on the nut, so every 60 degrees. So now we've got to put it in the lathe, and we're going to put a little chamfer there. See this one here? Can you see where my thumbnail is? A little chamfer there. That's what we're going to do. We're going to knock off that sharp edge. It just makes it that much nicer. I got to take off the burrs now. See, on each corner there's a burr. We'll get those off. It takes time to make good nuts and bolts, and washers too. You always want to take the burrs off nicely. So I marked that because this is the right side, and this is the angle it's got to come out at 13 degrees. Then it lines up with the hose really nicely. See what's happening here? That's the angle we want, and we're close, so a little bit of grinding. Okay, here's our piece, and we screwed it into the crankcase, and we had the washer on it, and we marked where the outside was. So what we have to do now is to screw this into this insert, this nut, and make it about the same torque setting, more or less. And then we'll mark that, and that determines where this gets welded on, what the position is. So let's do that. Okay, that's got torque. So if I continue the mark with a felt pen, that's the outside like that. That has to be the outside. So this piece here, I gotta think about this a moment. Or is it the other side? I got a feeling it's got to be 180. If I do this wrong, so that has to come like that. So it's not lining it all up. It's going 180, because when you flip it around 180, then it sets it up to be in the right axis. It's a bit of a mind twist in a way, and I sure hope I'm right. Okay, so we'll do that. That should be good. Okay, let's do some TIG welding. I'll tack it, then I'll weld it. So that's what it looks like. It's going to sit in the lathe and it's going to wobble around. That's what it looks like. This is the chuck holding this. So this is the center line of the lathe. So that's the amount of offset right there. 190 thou. And there's a line right through the middle. And if I also make a little mark right here this way, that is right on the center. And then if I do 190 thou, we'll just set that up. So in the lathe, that's where the center drill wants to go, right there. I've never done anything quite like this before. Okay, so I think we're going to take some cuts now. The first thing to do is to face it off so that it's flat, not at an angle. That would be good. So why don't we go down to right there. Okay, very technical. To note to myself, I have to set the compound at 9 degrees because that's the angle of the bun breather. The included angle is 18 degrees. So we move the compound 9 and we end up with the same size as that. Okay, we're getting close. We got 40 thou left to come off. But what I want to do first is I want to make that. I've got to make an inset so that this goes in, because then I can tell how the O-ring is seating. So we're gonna move the tool now, so it'll cut this, and we also have to do the depth. We're gonna go down about the same depth. We got our size, that's good. So now we keep on boring the taper, and we have to check it to see how this goes in with the O-ring. When this goes maybe halfway, that means there's a little bit of squash on the O-ring. That's what we want, because it has to seal. You don't want any oil leaking out of there, although I don't think that'll happen. Oh, it's going in a bit more. Look at that. Oh, it almost stays in there itself. Okay, that's going to go like that. So we have to drill the hole to hold that in. So that's where the inside hole ended up, and that worked out really nice because we've got room for the thread. This is in its correct position. I'm pretty happy with that. I just have to figure out how to shape this all. Once the little holder goes in there, then I'll probably go off that shape, and I don't know what it's going to look like, but I guess next week you'll see, won't you? We'll take this over to the vise now, and the bench vise, and I'll tap. Okay. Very small tap, 3 millimeters. I don't have a spiral point tap, so I need to go back and forth and be very careful. Oh, I felt it hit bottom. Okay. Okay, so we're going to put it together. It's nice that it likes to hold itself in there. Oh, that works out quite nicely. Okay, so fiber washer, and let's see where this ends up. There we go. Okay, so it needs a little bit of a tighten, but then it'll come where it's supposed to. So let's shorten up the hose. Yeah, like that. There we go. It's basically on. So that's a pretty, well, it's a lot better than what it was before. On my last bike, it came up and forward and then around the side and back over there. It was just a mess. This is a lot cleaner, like that. Thank you very much for watching this. 3 things, that's what I named it. We hope you liked it. Much and I like coffee. If you would buy us a coffee, that'd be fantastic. Stay safe. See you next week. Have a great week.